that help us to live life well. So I know it takes a little bit for it to load up and people to join in, but I'll just start talking and then we'll get into it a bit more. So today's topic, I'm so excited. We have Heather Bond with us, and she is a life and leadership coach. She has personally coached Jazz and I through the start of AO1, and she's also coached me on numerous other topics since then. And today you'll get a little sneak peek, our part 2, a little bit later in the interview. She's going to do a live coaching for me in front of everyone, which will be really interesting. So, Heather, I met, I don't even know, 3-4 years ago, I guess, something around there. And we have become great friends throughout that time. So I'm honored to have her on the show, both as my life and leadership coach, as well as my friend. All right. So probably for a lot of people listening, they may not even know what life coaching or leadership coaching is, or they may have an idea what they think life and leadership coaching is, which may not be accurate. So let's just start the conversation with, what is life and leadership coaching?
Absolutely. So there's a ton of definitions out there about what coaching is. You could talk to 10 different people and get 10 different answers. So I'm going to give you the definition according to the way I've been trained. And so life and leadership coaching is really an ongoing, intentional conversation that empowers a person to fully live out their calling. What does that mean? So as a coach and as a client, we have this ongoing conversation that I facilitate a series of questions and really digging in to you because you're the expert on your life. I like to describe it this way. In the world, we have all of these voices screaming at us. We have media, we have Hollywood, we have our families, our mothers, our mother-in-laws, our children, our husbands, our bosses, our friends, magazines, billboards. Everybody is screaming at us about who we should be, what we should look like, what we should do, what our values should be. And what I like to describe coaching as is like noise-canceling headphones. So have you ever put a pair of like Bose noise-canceling headphones on in a really like airplane or something really loud? And all of that is drowned out, right? All you can hear is what you turn on. Coaching is like noise-canceling headphones in that I try to act like those headphones, canceling out all of those other voices and really trying to just help you focus on what's important to you. I know you talk a lot about your audience of one. Who is your audience of one? Let's zero in to that voice and you move forward in your goals and in your dreams, listening to that voice and not everything else.
So good. Like all what you're saying there about the different voices and that's exactly what we went over last week. When you're trying to find your audience of one. So yeah, anyone who's been following along, listening, like you might be at that point where you're like, okay, these are really good questions, but I just don't know how to determine through all this. Like Heather's questions, life coaching, leadership coaching is so good at helping just pinpoint what is the next part of the journey to focus on. And anyway, I could go on with stories on how you've helped me with that. So yes, noise canceling headphones help you determine who your audience of one is. Okay, what is particularly life coaching? I think that one has more of the misconceptions than leadership coaching, but either one. But what is it not?
Yeah. So this is like a big discussion. There's a lot of just like self-proclaimed life coaches out there. They just decide, hey, I'm good at giving advice, so I'm going to call myself a life coach and make money. But when you're trained professionally as a coach, you really learn that coaching is not, I'm going to give you several what it's not. It's not counseling. Counseling is a very needed thing in people's lives, but counseling helps us to overcome past tragedies, traumas, hurts in our lives that are holding us down. It gets into those core hurts and helps us process them. Okay. Coaching is not counseling. It's good to have both. Coaching is not mentoring. A mentor is somebody who walks alongside of you. They're a little bit farther ahead of you on the path that you want to go on. So you can look to them as an example. They can give you advice on, this is the way I did it. You should either do it that way or not do it that way. A mentor really like shows you where to go. Do as I have done and you'll succeed. Mentoring, we all need a mentor. It's a very important role in our lives, but coaching is not mentoring. Coaching is not advising or consulting. Advisors and consultants are experts in a particular field. And so if there is something specific that you want to learn or develop, then you're going to go to an advisor or a counselor. If you need to learn how to invest in the stock market, you're going to go to a financial consultant, which is needed, but that's not what coaching is. Life coaching is not athletic coaching. And so a lot of people think about it in those terms. So Stefanie, you give a prescribed workout. If I want to get fit, I'm going to hire you as a coach, and you're going to determine a prescribed workout for me to get me in shape physically. Life coaching is not athletic coaching because I don't give you a prescribed workout 1, 2, 3 to get better. So what life and leadership coaching, what sets it apart from all of these others is that coaching really sets you as the expert. You are the expert on your life, your goals, your dreams, and what you want to accomplish. I'm going to walk alongside you and help you to facilitate that conversation so that you can discover what's important to you and that you can find that truth and that courage to move ahead in what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. As a client, I can say more often than not, I'm surprised that when you're asking the questions, I already knew the answer. So what you say is true, like you are the expert on yourself, but I can't even recognize those answers because all the voices and all the clutter in my head. So the questions have been so good to like laser point to what I know about myself.
Right. That's good. That's the goal. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So good stuff. Good to know what it's not. Okay. So what are the benefits? What are the range of topics that you cover? Like why would someone come to you and be like, okay, I'm ready for life coaching? Like what do they want to accomplish?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So let's talk about some of the benefits. What I want to do as a life and leadership coach is really to help you discover your passion and your purpose in life, develop your strengths and your talents, improve your self-awareness that you touched on. That's huge in coaching, is for you to develop that self-awareness. And out of that self-awareness, I want to help facilitate you overcoming those self-limiting beliefs. All of us have self-limiting beliefs. Some of us have no idea that we do, but we all have this small little voice inside of our head telling us something that's not true. So like overcoming those self-limiting beliefs and motivating you to move past your fears and your hesitations. That's a big one. So many of us are held back by things that we are not even conscious of. So developing those, finding those, and finding the motivation to move past them, facilitating lifestyle changes, giving you the tools. As you develop your action steps and move ahead, then you develop those tools that you then apply to another situation because you've discovered your awareness and you know how to do it. And then really propelling you to reach your potential. That's the goal, like in all of those things. So that's the benefit, is just that propulsion like moving you forward in whatever it is that you're about. As for the range of topics, the sky's the limit. It is truly an unlimited field. But just to name a few, career leadership. Like you said, I worked with you and Jazz just on the launch of this business. I work with other leaders just in their jobs, in their careers, helping them to perform better, motivated to do better in their careers. Educational and intellectual goals. I love coaching college students. I love college students. They're just in that place where they're eager to learn and grow and move forward. So education and intellectual goals. Relational is a big area. Family, bosses, co-workers, friends, relational issues. Sometimes you just need to verbally process out loud relational issues with, somebody, a coach. Also physical health, spiritual health, emotional health, character issues, hobbies, recreation, and then even like practical things of organization, time management, like household management, things like that. But really, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. And for anyone who's followed us for any length of time, you can see why I love Heather and life coaching so much, because all these topics that you're listing, like it's what we say in AO1 about self-limiting beliefs and self-awareness and overcoming fears and hesitations. Like I love the intermixing where I feel like AO1, we like to like present the topic and inspire and encourage and have the community around it. And we learn this through fitness. But then when you're ready to take that like next step deeper, having that personal life and leadership coach, and in that setting where it's a conversation about your particular struggles and your particular next step, action step, like you're so much more effective. It's personal. That's the biggest difference.
Yeah, it's nice to have that safe space to come into and really discuss those areas, that you just you're ready to go deeper.
Mm-hmm. So let's hear more of your story. Like, why did you personally decide to get into this field? What led you here?
Yeah, so it was, I think, about 7 years ago that the organization that my husband and I work for asked us to be a part of a within organization training on coaching, because they were starting this peer-to-peer coaching initiative. So people within our organization were learning to coach each other, just as an encouragement, as just helping other people on the same journey discover what they need to do. And so my husband and I attended this training, novice training. I think it was one day, 1.5 days. And I started coaching other women in the Vancouver area and really just fell in love with it. And over the years, just realized that that coaching, helping other women move past those places where they're stuck and really make life changes, because out of that self-awareness and being able to really name those self-limiting beliefs and then conquer those self-limiting beliefs, that really gave me life. And I just became passionate about it. So about 1.5 years ago, my husband and I just took the step to get professionally trained. So we had been doing it for like 5 years within our organization for free. And we were like, you know what, we love this and we should like do this for a career. And, so we did it. We took a step and we love it. Yeah.
So good. And you're so gifted at it, both of you.
Thanks.
Okay, so who is life and leadership coaching for?
Yeah, life and leadership coaching is for anybody that feels any form of being stuck, being like, I know that I'm here and that's where I want to be. but I don't know why I'm not there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I'm stuck here, and I don't know why I'm not there, and I'm not sure how to get there, but I'm ready to be there. And so the key is ready, right? The key is, even in fitness training, you got to be ready, to take that step. You got to jump in, and you got to start and be willing to go, okay, this is where I want to go, and I'm going to do it. And so that's who life and leadership coaching is for. Anybody that is ready to take the next step.
Mm-hmm. So I kind of hear you saying, like, you're not there to do the work for them.
It is all about you. I can't emphasize that enough. Coaching is client-centered. It is my job. I actually trained to be invisible. We are told, be invisible, because it's not about me. When I'm coaching you, I'm out of the picture. It's kind of weird,
That's
right?
a tough concept. Yeah.
It is. But I'm there to facilitate your conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
Because I don't need you to tell me what you're going to do, but you need to tell you, because you're going to do what you are convicted about doing. And so I'm there to facilitate that conversation and help you make those discoveries. But it's not about me. It's about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's give them a taste of what it looks like. But before we do, can you just give overview of, like, for people who are interested, what does a coaching session look like? What's the structure? What do they need to know?
Absolutely. So what a typical coaching relationship looks like is it goes on like 3-month intervals. So we have about an hour conversation, 45 minutes. It's sometimes I go an hour and a half if the client is going there.
2.5 hours, Anna.
You could. But typically it's about an hour-long session every other week. This is not set in stone, but what we find really is that every other week works really well. It's via phone typically, or video chat. Some people really like Stefanie likes to video chat with me because she wants to read my face.
Yeah.
And I like to do it over the phone because I want to be invisible and I don't want her to read my face. But we do that for about 3 months, and then reevaluate. And so you get 6 to 8 coaching conversations in a series. And then reevaluate. And if you're ready to continue, and then we keep going. There's no end to that, but it's kind of like we do it for 3 months and then evaluate and move on as you need.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the 2-week time period, because then you leave with like your action steps. Like, you got 2 weeks to get done. I feel like 1 week would stress me out. I won't get them done, but 2 weeks is good.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So we're going to go live, do a coaching call. This is a demo. We've not done, like, we haven't practiced this session before, so it's raw, but we're going to have it shorter than it normally would be. And I'm not going to bare my entire soul for the world, but I'll be open with you.
Yeah. So, I'm just going to reiterate what you said, Stefanie. Is typically we would have an hour-long conversation. You and I are probably going to have maybe a 20-minute conversation. So, typically I would try to go a lot deeper, but because we're on Facebook Live, we don't need to bare your soul out to everybody. And everybody doesn't want to listen to a coaching conversation for an entire hour. So, yeah.
All right. Okay. So topic for today is transition. So I feel like a lot of listeners could relate to this, but it may not be your exact situation. So for me, for the past 2 months, whatever, since we've been locked down, I've been doing AO1 and coaching via Zoom, but the gym that I'm part owner in is going to open on Monday. And like, that's one part, but then along with that, like, we're all going into phase 2. So we're allowed more contact, where, more things are open. For me, like I've been homeschooling the boys beforehand anyway, but I know a lot of people, that's the transition, as kids going back to school and that as well. So anyway, just so coming into this transition, and I guess my personal struggle I'd like coaching on is just kind of to be able to enter the next phase well and take the lessons from these past 2 months and apply them. I've done a lot of self-reflection and like self-development, growth steps, habits, that sort of thing in the last 2 months, and evaluating and realizing how many errors I'd lived with before. And I'm just worried like stress and busyness is going to just creep right back in and kind of steal back any progress that I've made.
Okay. All right. So when you think about this transition and transitioning well, what impact is that having on your life? What makes it really important to you to do that well?
I think that like when I look at how I was living before, I don't think I'll have the time and space to I can always take the time and space, right? But I think it will be difficult to self-correct if I veer off track. So I kind of want to put in as many safeguards before I get off track. I mean, I hope I don't get off track, but try and stop it.
Okay. Right. So what specific result would you like to walk away with today from our coaching session?
I guess like a sense of peace in the plan going forward, and my hunch is that it's like probably the fear is a bit irrational, so kind of like seeing it for what it is, and knowing that if I do fall off track, like knowing what steps I need to take to get back on track, that it's not like a fail and I'm done.
Right. So you mentioned seeing it for what it is. What is it?
I think I was pretty close to burnout before COVID happened. And honestly, when everything shut down, I felt relief. I felt like I don't have to live up to any more expectations because no one has any expectations of anyone now. And it felt really nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what truths have you learned over the past 2 months?
I think realizing how nice it is to not carry the weight of expectations and fill up my time, whereas before the busyness would kind of keep me from realizing I was even doing that. It was just hop to the next thing, hop to the next thing. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What truths have you learned over the past 2 months?
Okay. I have learned that I tend to flip-flop from like relaxed and having fun and just enjoying everything that's coming into like, I don't know, such a laser focused, task oriented, must get everything done and right, and then chaos, and just like let it go and kind of fall down, do a little apathy, and then come back up. And I think I repeat this cycle at different intervals at different times, but I didn't realize how often I kind of fell into chaos.
Okay. So that's a negative truth that you think that you believe about yourself. What are some of the positive truths that have come out of the last 2 months?
Like I've implemented a lot of habits to fight against that realization. Okay. So, like, I'm Marie Kondoing my house right now, which will be a future episode, but like getting organization down. So organizing with more realistic expectations, I guess. Like one example, I don't know why I arbitrarily decided I had to start homeschooling the boys at 8 a.m. and realized I was always rushed and stressed after either teaching a class or working out in the morning, trying to have a shower, trying to have breakfast, and then start homeschooling them. And they didn't even want to be doing anything at 8 a.m. They like sleeping in. It just seemed like I would be a bad mom and it would be lazy if we went any later. And then now I've chosen 9:30 and we're all like ready, and it's like nice to start homeschooling. And I mean, but pre-COVID, I don't think I had that luxury. And then now it's like, well, we could do it any time of day. So this actually feels really nice.
So that's a very important self-limiting belief that you overcame, that you became aware of and overcame, that we talked about before. Of you had this self-limiting belief that if you did not begin homeschooling at 8 a.m., you were a bad mom.
Right.
That's not true. Or that
I was living in chaos and couldn't organize myself well enough.
Yeah. And so good self-awareness, good learning. Okay. What else have you learned?
Yeah, a lot with the like having a schedule, like having time blocks, but getting more aware about like what is actually feasible in that amount of time and what I actually want to do with that amount of time. Like I can fit these things in, but I won't enjoy any of them, instead of like, well, I mean, it's so hard to say because now there just isn't that demand. So I can spread the time blocks out and it just flows so nice. Like getting out in nature is happening so much more. But then when there's like the mandatory blocks put back in there, I'm not sure how to navigate that. Like I can't keep living how I am forever. It's not realistic either, but I don't want to go back to how it was. So trying to find somewhere in the middle.
Okay. So with that in mind, what would you say are the most important changes that you've made over the last 2 months?
Being able to find joy in the present without a future expectation stealing it. I can't say that's perfect, but I would say that has happened a lot more. Mm-hmm. That's definitely a goal.
That's good. Okay. So what are your top priorities moving forward?
My priority is to keep my priorities in line. So I think, what it comes down to is not overcommitting myself. That's a term my husband uses a lot. What have you actually committed to? And apparently the way I speak sounds like commitments, even when I don't think they're commitments. So being more mindful of the actual words and language I use when talking about future events. Oh, I guess the other good habit I've put in is I use the app Calendly now, even for like personal, like friends hanging out things. Like, all right, you can schedule in my calendar whenever it's available. And then I don't go, oh yeah, I could just shove that in here. Oh, I could make that work. And I don't know why I keep doing that, but I do.
Okay. All right. So you said being more aware of the language that you use will help you to not overcommit. Mm-hmm. What language do you feel that you need? What language transitions do you need to make?
this is like the area I feel like I'm the least self-aware in. You're really hitting it on the head because, yeah, like the way that I say it is not the way it's received, and I'm kind of just today become more aware of this, so I need to spend some time analyzing what I'm actually saying, and I think maybe just stopping after I say it and be like, how did you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
What is your expectation based on what I said? And just like clarify with people.
So, do you have an example, or what examples do you have that you think might be being misinterpreted?
Well, today's example, when I came home and I said, okay, and I don't know what words I used, but in my head I was saying, can we go on a walk as a family today? That's what it was here, but I don't know what came out of my mouth. And it probably was like, hey, let's go on a walk, we can do this, or something like that. I don't know. So I need to analyze that. Yeah.
Okay. So in what ways can you analyze that?
It's probably whenever I'm the most excited. So if I can remember that, to like stop myself, like think before I talk. Very basic.
Mm-hmm. All right. And so it was Justin that pointed this out. This is getting a little bit personal. It was Justin that pointed this out. In what ways could Justin help you analyze
Yeah, he's the one who
the
should.
language?
Yeah. I can just clarify with him more, ask him
Mm-hmm.
to repeat back what he understands that I said.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's one area of becoming more self-aware about the way in which you communicate and the way in which that comes across in being overcommitted. Um, what so your top priorities are keeping your top priorities. In what are those key elements in transitioning forward that that have to be added in? Stop right there. What are those key elements?
Like schedule wise that are going to be added in?
Yeah, the things that you currently don't have that you're anticipating going back to normal.
Yeah. So teaching classes physically at another location, not out of my home. So travel time, it just ends up being a lot more time. And then like with the boys, navigating what in-person things will come for them. Like right now, tutoring, everything's online. So again, when those scheduled items are and the travel time and that sort of thing. And then socially, what's possible. And here's where I battle like, okay, good reason and limitless possibilities, and trying to satisfy both. Um, and yeah, and then I don't know. I mean, depending on how far phase 2 goes, like, do swimming pools open up, like those sorts of things, more activities. Yeah.
Okay. So when you think about those key factors that will be added back to your schedule, how do they align with your top priorities?
Yeah, like they all do. But it's to what degree do I let each of those things take time? Like if I spent all of my time on social activities for myself, I would be neglecting top priority of family. So yeah, it's just balancing them all, but they all, like, I wouldn't say any of those categories are something that I want to cut out completely.
Right. So as you have a little bit of time before Monday, before we really dig into phase 1, how do you, in what ways can you evaluate those key factors that are being added out compared to your priorities, and find that healthy balance for you?
Yeah. I think having a greater lag time from possibility to commitment.
Okay.
So when the possibility of an event or a schedule or yeah, when it comes up, my tendency is to like, well, I don't want to miss out and I don't want to inconvenience the other person who's offering or whoever it involves. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll say yes and I'll figure out the details later. So I think a smarter path would be to take in the information and then have some checks and balances. So talking to Justin would probably be a good check and balance.
Mm-hmm.
And then like actually looking on the calendar right away and not just I can make it work, to not say that anymore, but to say, I don't know, what would the words be? Is this the valuable? Is this the best thing? Is this the best way to spend my time?
Mm-hmm. What that is a good internal conversation to have. Yes. Um, and yes, like looking at these things as they come up and say, is this the best way that I want to spend my time? Is this honoring my priorities? Is this honoring my values?
Mm-hmm.
But what in that moment, because a minute ago you said you don't want to inconvenience the person.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the way you said that. Um, what could be a response to somebody that is asking something of you um, that you could make back in a very polite and non-committal way that's not inconveniencing or offending?
Yeah. Like thank them. And I think this is where I have a hard time because I'm afraid I'm going to actually forget about it and it'll be more work to get back to them later. So that's
Mm,
why I try and do it right away as well. So maybe if I thank them, put a reminder in my calendar to check and schedule it at a later time. So I don't have to schedule right then and there, but I won't forget about it then.
mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's one option. But yeah, I just wanted to dig in a little bit that because you have that fear of missing out, and you also have a fear of offending, somebody. I don't want to tell you no because that might hurt your feelings, and I love you, and I know that about you, and so that's that quick of yeah, that sounds fun. I want to do that. Um, so then in your mind, how can you really develop some of those conversations that you would be comfortable with, like those responses that would allow you to affirm and yet not commit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh man, that's just language that I don't have at the tip of my tongue, but I need. So I should write down a whole bunch. Um,
So, not that I want you to come up with those answers right now, but how can you develop them?
uh, well, a little trial and error and think on it and uh, could I can think of a few scenarios that will come up, so can
Mm-hmm.
think specifically about those scenarios and then um, I don't know, other than trial and error, like just
Yeah,
being mindful of this conversation.
yeah. Just kind of rehearse. Like you said, you can think of a few scenarios. So kind of rehearsing that, practicing of, I don't want to overcommit. So the reason I'm going down this road is because you said that you don't want to fall, the pitfalls. You don't want to, you use the word fail, which is not the proper word because it's not failing. Um,
Right.
but you do, you want to put in some safeguards, is what you said. You want to put in some safeguards ahead of time. So one of those safeguards could be be learning the self-awareness of the words that you are using, and then developing some language, and being prepared beforehand before the situation arises.
Yes. I don't, yeah, language. It's very important. Just maybe off topic, but funny. Justin will speak so well, and I'll say, like, how do you know all these words? And I'll use a word and he'll say, that's not what that means. And I'll go, well, I speak 2 languages, so I can communicate in one way or another. I just don't speak English very well. But yes, I hear what you're saying. So being mindful of my actual words and developing more language.
Mm-hmm. How would that help you in the idea of not overcommitting yourself?
By using words like, that sounds really great, I'll get back to you, instead of like, hey, that's awesome, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then giving you that lag time you talked about of being able to step back and go, okay, that sounds really fun, but is this the best thing that I need to do right now? You know, there's a lot of good things, but what's the best thing? What really honors my priorities and honors my values? And so it gives you that moment of reflection that you talked about. So what other elements, as you move forward into phase 2, what other hesitancies do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I could branch in a few different topics, but maybe kind of staying in line with this one, like, yeah, like tasks around the house I've been working very hard to organize everything. And I like had the small realization, but now that I've actually organized closet space for a laundry basket to sit in each room, I don't go into the laundry room and see piles of laundry waiting for me, going, hey, you haven't done this yet, hey, you got more on your plate. And so like just having that like piece of like, things will get taken care of, and it's not like coming home where the place should be to rest and have everything screaming like, hey, there's
Mm-hmm.
more work to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I want to keep implementing more safeguards in that way, to like have it just flow nicely. And it's funny because like my drive is like adventure and excitement, and so why am I like caring so much about cleaning? But it's because this has been like the limiter. I can't just like go and have an adventure because there's always all these like chaotic things that make it difficult. So I feel like if I could just like snap, 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 get all these systems in order and running smoothly and on autopilot, then I have the freedom to like go and do the things I really want to do.
Okay. So what safeguards are included in that?
Well, like orderliness of the home, food and schedules of food. And I mean, normally it would be staying on top of homeschooling, but we're kind of coming to the end of that, so it feels
Mm-hmm.
quite manageable right now.
Mm-hmm. All right. So in what ways can you maintain those systems that you have created and are created moving into phase 1?
Yeah, I think like doing the work now ahead of time is going to help a lot. And so part of that's like doing a little bit of food prep and stockpiling. And then once the house is in order, it's easy like to keep it in order, that sort of thing. So I think like I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm just not there yet, but I feel pretty confident I can get there. And then once like the initial setting the environment is done, I feel like it's going to carry forward. Whereas pre-COVID, I wouldn't have had the time to do all these things to kind of set up. So I feel like that's been a really good blessing. And yeah, so that area, as long as I can get it done before too many other things come in, then yeah.
Okay, so you've taken a lot of steps to create these systems in this organization in your life already. And like you said, you see that light at the end of the tunnel if it's coming to a finish, and those are safeguards. So what you wanted today was a plan going forward. So you have created some systems, built in some safeguards. You are going to be recognizing the way in which you respond to people and the ways in which you tend to overcommit to things and allow yourself time to step back, evaluate that commitment before you make it. So these are some good things. How do you feel about those plans moving forward?
Yeah, I like that we've talked it out and that it's forcing me to anticipate and not go in blindly and to think about possible situations. I still feel a little hesitant, just like I know I can't please everybody, but I really want to. And I think that like when it's just so hard to say no. And like when I'm thinking about when I will say no, and I don't know, like the guilt that comes from that, like I don't feel 100% confident that I won't rebound, but I feel like I have more tools and more awareness of why I need to pause and reflect and not commit. It's just it's counter to how I would normally do it. So I feel like there'll be growing pains, but I am grateful to try and forge this new path because I don't want to carry on how I was.
So without going into the specifics, details of, I'm going to circle back to two questions that I asked earlier and put it in this form. How do you keep those priorities, those values, and those lessons that you've learned over the past 2 months? How do you keep them up front so that they are driving those decisions instead of guilt?
Yeah. Yeah, good point. Okay. So that's the answer. When guilt pops up, it's like compare that to the priorities and then it kind of puts it in its place where I think it's the do the important things, not the urgent things. Guilt can always scream louder, but when I actually reflect, like obviously the priorities are the important things, and that maybe lets me put some noise canceling headphones on to that guilt screaming.
Because guilt multiplies guilt. Guilt compounds and stacks on top of it. But when you are living and making your life decisions out of your values, out of your priorities, then you don't have to have guilt. If somebody else doesn't like it, that's okay. That's their life, their choice. But you living out of your priorities and your values is honoring what's most important to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in that is freedom. Mm-hmm.
That's good.
How do you keep that in front of you over the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, how do I keep it in front of me? I feel like it's it's being mindful of it, but it's what I was thinking about this today, like what voices do you hear the most often? And so I think a lot of that is like keeping it in conversation, whether that's life coaching or friends conversation, what audiobooks am I listening to? What books am I reading? What podcasts and media do you take in? Like all the voices. So yeah, I think for like the truth to solidify, like I need to keep it on my tongue. I need to keep talking about it, and that keeps me thinking about it. I'd say journaling, I've just really not been able to develop that habit, but for people who have, it's a great tool. But yeah, talking and thinking.
Okay, that's good. So I think that time-wise, that we should draw this to a close. And so normally, as you well know, I would ask you to define some action steps that you're going to put into place and practice over the next 2 weeks. And then I would typically ask you, what's a highlight from today's conversation? Meaning, what was that moment that you went, oh, yeah, that's true. I'm going to remember that.
Do you want me to answer?
You can.
Yeah, I mean, the highlight again, like I kind of had all this clutter in my head of like, okay, I know everything's changing, it's coming to phase 2 and I don't want to lose the progress, but then you zoned in on, or your question zoned in on expectations and overcommitting, and the overcommitting because of the root of guilt, which I did not have in my head before this conversation. So now it's, yes, a lot more effective to focus on that area and follow through on the strategies. So that was
I want to point out that you said the word guilt. I don't know if you're aware of that, but you're the one that said it. I repeated it.
Yep.
It was in there, but you didn't know it.
It was in there, but I didn't know it. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And now all of Facebook knows it. All right. So awesome. There is a great demonstration as always. Heather's questions bring up, just zero in on what it is that I know I need to focus on. I mean, I can't speak for all of your clients, but I know every single conversation we've had has had that aha moment. So we'll wrap up here, but where do people reach you, Heather? And yeah, tell us like price range, like what to expect. Someone wants to be your client, what happens?
Yeah, so this is one area that Stefanie's been driving me on and pushing me on. I do not have a website or a Facebook page because I have a self-limiting belief that it's too intimidating and all of that. So I have a cell phone and an email address. And if you want to type that in to the comments, heatherabond@icloud.com is my email address. And my cell phone number is 778-679-8755. Do I need to repeat that? 778-679-8755. There we go. Yep. And as far as costs, so what I typically charge is $120 a month. And I charge by the month because some months, as I said, we talked about, that's every other week. So depending on the month, sometimes that's 2 sessions, sometimes that's 3 sessions, just depending on how the day falls. So that includes 2 to 3 sessions per month for a 3-month series, and also just check-ins. If you need to text me or call me, like I've got one client in Texas that like she loves to text me on the week in between and show me what she's been doing, and I can cheer her on and say good progress. And that also includes I try to give you resources for things that you're working on. If I know of a blog or a podcast or a book or some other kind of resource, I really try to provide those potential resources for you. So yeah, it's $120 a month for 2 to 3 1-hour sessions plus check-ins.
That's awesome. Best investment you can do in yourself and your self-growth. Thank you so much, Heather, for coming on.
You.
And yeah, being with us. All right. So tomorrow, 8:30, we've got another workout. Just a reminder this week, and then next week on that Friday. Actually, on that Friday, we have something special, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But that is the end of the free workouts on Facebook, is the end of next week. Hope you enjoyed this. Please continue to leave any questions in the comments, and we'll get Heather to check the comments as well. If you have something directed to her, then she can reply there. All right. Thank you. We'll be back on AO1 Conversations next Tuesday night. Bye for now.